Okay. Hi everyone. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'll introduce myself first. My name is Katherine Cantwell, and I manage the online content and social media for the independent record label Heavenly Recordings. I'm somebody that doesn't actively create content, just so that people know the difference between digital marketing and content creation. But I work with some amazing artists and I have a creative team that help create the content for me. But I manage the posts, and I copy and I write all the copy for the posts and I keep track of all of the insights around our posts. You'll notice from my slides today that I'm not the most artistic person. So having people help create content is beneficial to everybody at the label. Um, but the ideas I have and the ideas that I can give you about social media today should be interesting and helpful for you. So Heavenly Recordings, a little brief history. It's currently home to Lynx, Kneecap, Casey J. Pearson, David Holmes, Baxter Jury, the Oriels, Delivery, and Guano, amongst others. We've also worked with the likes of King Gizzard, Working Men's Club, Temples, and also Confidence Man. So my job is to utilize social media platforms to promote Heavenly artists, the label as a whole, releases, events, and also the label's history. I thought I'd briefly outline a little bit about me, and how I got to where I am first, as quite often that's something that I get asked. Um, so I used to be a regular gig goer and have always been passionate about bands. I'm from Bournemouth originally, where I used to do the door at various venues. I started my own blog there, and I also went to the odd gig there. I then did a degree in BA Media and Communications at Goldsmiths in London, where I also volunteered for the student paper. I watched popular music students. I worked behind the bar at Brixton Academy. I did the door at a venue called The Social, and I managed a blog for a venue called The Macbeth. My way into sort of speaking to bands was just going to shows, and from there, that's when I started to write to record labels. It was Heavenly that took me on for 1 or 2 days per week, and I've been there for 12 years since. Um, Additionally, during the pandemic, I refreshed my digital marketing skills. As you'll learn during this presentation, the pandemic had a really big impact on digital marketing and social media. Um, so I upskilled with a course that was part of the University of the Arts London. I also regularly or try to do courses that are offered by BPI Music, Music Ally, and also AIM, all companies that you may or may not have heard of, but would be worth investigating. In the last few years, I've become a line manager to an apprentice as part of the inaugural Amplify scheme, which was run by AIM, Amazon Music, and Women in Control. And I also currently live in Manchester, where I have been living post-pandemic. Also, an impact of the digital world in which we live in, me being able to move away from London. Um, I regularly run workshops like this. I've done them as part of BIM in Manchester and also Future Yard in Birkenhead. And my other passion outside of my day job is creating pathways into the industry and hearing from young creative women in particular in and around Manchester how they achieved their career goals, the journeys that it took to get them there, in the hope that I can inspire the next generation to do the same. But here I'm here to talk all things digital today. So let's have a little look at this. So before I look at specific social media channels and how these can relate to you as an artist, I have some basic suggestions for you. These can also be applied to management companies and or record labels. They are not just artist specific, although I appreciate that many of you are probably artists or creatives here today. So there are three key things which I find helpful when thinking about social media. Continuity is the first. When launching as a new record label or as a new artist, continuity is key across all of your social media platforms. Having that strong image or logo is important to convey what it is that you're trying to talk about. Here, I've pulled together a list of some iconic logos, many of whom you probably recognize. But whether you're an artist or company, consider your logo carefully, as it's likely to be the image that will be reshared the most across your social media channels. Similarly, continuity applies to your social media handles. If possible, having the same handle or similar handles for each channel makes it much more easy for people to search for you. Continuity also applies to having each platform covered. Most of our artists, and indeed nearly all of the artists, have each different type of social media platform, although I will discuss that perhaps less is more a bit later. But by covering all of these different platforms, you are able to tap into different age groups, countries, engaging with new fans, and it's also a place where everybody keeps up to date. So it's important that profiles are kept updated and they reflect each other. There's also something to be said that if people are flicking from one social media channel to another and they see the same image 3 or 4 times during that day, they are probably more likely to act on it. That's how traditional TV ads work. So, in the age of Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and WhatsApp, what is important when it comes to social media? The important thing is to have one specific place where you can access all of these other places. It's a really easy thing to forget along your social media journey. But the website or Linktree, which is now what a lot of artists use, is makes for a multi-link central point that fans can easily access. It is an essential tool to use as this has all the information in one place. We're now in an age where people are inundated with social media platforms, and people might choose to only go on 1 or 2 channels. If this link is placed across all of your channels, then people can still access the main information that you want them to, i.e., where you're selling your records, where people can listen to your music, where people can buy your merch. Similarly, these pages allow you to update with streaming services as well as social platforms. In other words, it tells you everything you need to know about who you are without battling through the adverts and other people's content. In a link tree or a website, the best thing to do is to keep it simple. A short biography about who you are, a selection of key dates, i.e., album release dates, a selection of videos to key things like, a selection of links to key things like videos, tour dates, and also your contact details, where you want people to be able to contact yourselves or your manager. These links should also include links to all of your social channels across the bottom and any shop links, and also the all-important mailing list sign-up link, which I will talk in depth about later. So let's go head on into the bigger social platforms. Facebook and Instagram. Now, I'm probably at a point here where Facebook seems like a distant memory compared to Instagram, or it seems like something that your auntie or your gran might have as opposed to your friends. But Facebook is linked to Instagram and it is part of the company called Meta Business. Meta Business is an integral tool to have because this is where companies can set up your adverts and you can work with digital agencies. I always advise artists to have Facebook, even if they don't even if they don't choose to use it as regularly as Instagram, although the cross promotion tool across both platforms has made it much easier to use both now. So yeah, as I've mentioned, Facebook is quite archaic, but there are quite a few benefits to it as well. We have found with a number of our artists that although younger people are no longer on Facebook, you are hitting an audience that buys records. Record sales are important. Um, and also, I would also like to remind you that Facebook still has a really, really high global reach. So although people in this country between the ages of 18 and 25 or 17 and perhaps even 45 are no longer on Facebook, you will find that people across the world are. My advice when using Facebook is to use it less frequently than the other channels. It doesn't look as nice, and therefore it doesn't need as much creative input. Facebook events can still be handy. Certainly something that a lot of promoters still use. And there's one other part of Facebook which is a really cool tool, which is the Facebook group, particularly if you're a niche artist or you follow a niche genre. For example, King Gizzards and the Wizards Facebook group page is huge, and this was set up by fans for fans. And that's a great place for people to drop in new music or announce gigs last minute. But we won't spend too long on Facebook because yeah, Instagram is the bigger tool and the better friend of Facebook. So, Instagram. I believe Instagram to be the most creative of all of the social media platforms. It's less throwaway with the permanent grid that it has in place. It now also has the highlights feature, and also you can add music to your profile. As a platform, it does need a lot more care and attention. If people are interested, they will scroll through your old posts and content. There are also quite a few new features now on Instagram. I'm just going to log on to have a look on my phone. There is now the repost tool, Reels, and also the what else is new? Being able to add multiple links onto your profile. So Instagram is used to share video content, photographs, stories, and also it can be used for purchase opportunities. So what is the best kind of content for this social media platform? Good content will reflect your personality and is authentic. Think about the quality of your videos and or the images that you are posting to your grid. Consider what you are posting and what this says about you. Like all the other platforms, Instagram is also a promotional tool. So think about how to promote your new shows, records, music. Make your posts clear and make them concise. Link back to your posts in your bio. That's where your link tree comes in. Your link tree does need to be updated. People do actually follow these links. Click-throughs now are higher on link trees than they once were, as are the click-throughs on stories. It's more with the new repost tool, people are scrolling through those faster. There's also some other rules to Instagram which I would consider when showcasing your music and when being an artist there. Respecting other people, respecting your friends and your fans when resharing content. Remember to ask permission and always tag others. When writing your posts, keep these fairly concise, as people don't tend to read long posts with a lot of text unless you need specifics on a certain item to avoid customer complaint or confusion. I'm going to give some more examples about Instagram posting and ideas around the layout, grids and tones, which I've pulled together later on as part of my artist example series. but I briefly just wanted to touch on Reels. So the introduction of Reels on Instagram now happened a couple of years ago, and Reels are made up of a single video or several clips edited together. They can be created using Instagram's native video editing tools or by a third-party video editing app. Instagram Reels are short-form content that we have all come to know to either love or hate. Either way, it isn't going anywhere, and we have to get creative with it. So when you're recording your live shows or when you're thinking about your music videos, it's worth considering the 30-second or 90-second clip. Instagram does still prioritize Reels, and it's a great way for brands and creators to flex their creativity and extend their reach beyond their followers. So essentially, Reels are the main Reels make up the main content that will extend beyond your followers. According to Instagram, brands and creators should create reels that are entertaining, inspiring, or experimental, and using creative tools like text, camera filters, or special effects. Video content can be repurposed, which is also another useful thing to think about. Video reel creation can be shared across YouTube Shorts and also TikTok. I am aware that on TikTok especially, they do prefer you to edit the videos within their own video editing workshop, which can be time consuming and slightly annoying. But I think if you are using Instagram as your main and dominant platform, then your editing should take place there, and that should be the priority for looking and sounding the best. But stories are another way on Instagram to engage fans and also resharing content that you like. You can add links to your stories, stickers, GIFs, locations, and filters. It's a really great way to showcase what other people have said about you. So that can be press, radio, or media. But it's also a great place to share some of the things that you love as a person and show that authenticity. So that can be music that you're listening to, books that you're reading, a cinema trip you might have enjoyed. It's a great way to engage with others as well, and quite often friendships or collaborations can happen via adding someone on a story. Touching on another social media channel, which fewer artists are now using, is X or Twitter, which was Twitter, which was formerly known as X, or Threads, which is the Instagram alternative. Nowadays, I do understand that artists are overrun with a large number of platforms that they can choose to use. And with the creation of video content taking longer to make, it can feel overwhelming for artists at the time. I would say that not using X or not using Threads or not using Blue Sky is probably the one that most artists tend not to do at this stage. I mean, X, I actually don't like anymore anyway because of the obvious reasons. But I think with Threads, you can have a setting where your Instagram posts automatically just go on to Threads, which is very handy. And Blue Sky is for if people are interested in using a platform like the old Twitter, then Blue Sky is the way to go. And they can be great if you're a witty, wordy person. So a quick thank you for an airplay, a shout out to a band that you might have seen, a quick funny line or two about some new merch that you might have. And also, these places can be useful to engage with journalists, key blogs, venues, promoters, and record labels. And if you are a fun, spontaneous writer, then they can be quite comedic in parts too. But I won't spend too long on there because, as I said, it's the one that we say to people it's not 100% necessary that you have if you feel like you don't want to balance 6 or 7 social platforms. However, this one has got bigger, I'm afraid. So the rise of TikTok is something that nobody in the music industry could have predicted. And for many labels like us at Heavenly, and certainly during my early time at Heavenly, I didn't know that a 15-second or 60-second clip reflecting an artist's music or album would be something where people would discover new music on. Ooh, take a deep breath. It's not all bad. What I have found since on TikTok through young artists that I find inspiring is that it's a great place for people's personalities and for self-expression. It is being used as a music discovery tool, and it is where the younger audience lies. Um, so so it is a platform that starting out, if you are a younger artist and are familiar with, you probably should be considering. It is a forward-facing platform, which isn't something that all artists feel comfortable with. And the algorithm does favor this type of forward-facing content. But again, that is a decision for you to make. The positives around TikTok in music is that it has its unique fan bases in otherwise sometimes marginalized communities. For example, there can be quite interesting trends surrounding things like folk music, weird walks, or there can be um, a particular trend in the LGBTQ plus community where fans feel like they're being spoken to and directly, and it brings people together. Um, so I'm not a TikTok expert, but it's certainly a channel that's pushing the boundaries in terms of creativity, and more artists are using it than ever than in the last year or two. Someone whose music I did discover via TikTok was Cat Burns. And Lynx, one of our own artists, has a genius style on there where he showcases all of his best sort of fashionista music and video content. Um, and other older artists have used it to re-engage younger audiences too. For example, the Chemical Brothers relaunched a lot of their older videos on TikTok, but with some new TikTok edits and branding to engage young people that perhaps had never heard their music before. TikTok is also good for behind the scenes and in the studio content, some blooper reels or anything on your travels that you deem funny and relevant for sharing. So that covers the main social platforms that artists should be using. But there are a couple more, and I believe the next few to be even more important than the main, what people would say social media channels are. And the first one is Bandcamp. So, whether you favor Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, the one thing that every independent label, art, and artist can unite on is Bandcamp. Bandcamp is leading the way for essential music discovery and also for building a fan base. It's become something of a phenomenon in the industry, recently picking up an award as part of the AIM Independent Music Awards last week. It's certainly the good guy when it comes to artist and fan consumer relationships. It's championed by the independent sector and it's shown themselves to be charitable to artists during the COVID-19 pandemic and Black Lives Matter campaign. It's only getting bigger and bigger. I know in the last month, Heavenly's alone has gained 1,000 more followers and not through much promotion. So, as a company, their actions to events as well as the way that they encourage fans to buy music, has seen a huge increase in its following. Not only that, for artists like you, it's easy to upload music, it's easy to upload merch, it's accessible to everyone across the world. You have a built-in mailing list via the Bandcamp community tab. It's user-friendly for the fans. It's also a discovery platform that a lot of global radio DJs and music industry professionals use. And They've also introduced the Bandcamp listening party feature, which followed on from Tim Burgess's popular Twitter events, which came out in the COVID-19 pandemic. Bandcamp is also linked to something which people forget is part of promotions and digital marketing: mailing lists and emails. So, before I discuss the best practice of the mailing list, I thought I'd briefly outline the overall use of email. This probably hasn't been updated for a little while. I think this stat was from 2023, but 44% of emails reach their objectives over any social media platform. And 99% of consumers check their emails daily. I don't doubt that that stat hasn't changed. So this brings me to the mailing list, my main form of digital interaction that is most successful in terms of fan communication and promotion, and also for building your fan community as an artist. Again, a mailing list is simple to set up. People sign up, they often get something exclusive, they feel like they're being spoken to directly, and it's where they feel a genuine connection with an artist or a brand. So it is also where they will purchase their products from. And this is when the mailing list database gets utilized. Successful mailing lists are maintained by considering the content of your emails. So how should these emails be sent? The first thing is not to bombard people with lots and lots and lots of emails. So choose events or a time frame which works for you, i.e. bi-weekly, once a month, or just when something big happens. Within your emails, use a friendly tone and think about yourself as being the user. Be mindful of coming across as pushy and consider what is best placed in your subject line to invite your fans in. Make sure that you say thank you to fans and show them careful consideration when curating your mail outs. Keeping it personal in your emails and slightly different to your social channels makes artists appear to be more authentic and also connected to their core fan base. It makes people feel special. Um, so things like a throwback to an old song, a record you might be listening to, writing a think piece, or perhaps you've got a limited item where you only have a couple of copies back in stock. It's really nice to let those mailing list people know that information first. But also remember that ultimately you are trying to get people to listen to your music and sometimes sell a product. So before sending those mail outs, make sure you check all of your links. You want people to be heading to the right place. Break up any monotonous bits of text with images and clickable buttons so that people are constantly being taken to what you want them to purchase. Format your newsletters so they have their own unique layout, and each one should follow a similar format so that it looks and stays professional. Keep these concise and make sure that you proofread your mailouts before sending them. Grammatical mistakes in emails do look sloppy. But play around with those catchy subject lines too. So think about your audience and how you can grab their attention most. Okay, so we're going to have a little look about how you now start as an artist online, and we're going to use a band that we worked with, Working Men's Club, who we worked with throughout the start and during the pandemic. And they have quite a unique way of using social media, which is a bit different to quite a few other artists. So, Working Men's Club are a very visual band in that they've chosen to keep their personal personas a bit more hidden from their music. So, although there are photographs and videos of the band performing live, it's rare that they will do forward facing content. Early on, this was a decision that the band made, as they didn't want their day to day lives to be a distraction from the music that they were making. So, to keep things interesting across their channels, the band and the label combined decided to collaborate with one visual artist who they contacted by seeing their work on Instagram. And this forged a relationship which continued for the first two album campaigns and also the creation of the Working Men's Club logo. By doing this work collectively with one artist, the band's identity is very strong, um, and uses a strong set of symbols and colorways. Um, so fans instantly recognize that that is Working Men's Club. It also acted as a great signal for when we were announcing something new. The written messages for Working Men's Club also, also remained fairly straightforward for, from the group, although they did save personal messages for whenever something really good happened. For example, when the record charted, there was a really nice personal message which was sent across in a mail out that the singer had written. So they had a really nice balance between being artistic but also visually interesting, where the focus was very much solely on the music rather than being an artist that sort of opened the door to their whole life. So it's quite a different way of working, but there's certainly kept a mystery and intrigue around them. So these are some examples of the visuals that were used across the various campaigns. Another band, and not a heavenly band, just so that we make that one clear, but certainly a band of last summer, was Fontaine's DC, and this is probably one of my favourite album campaigns within the last year. And I couldn't come here and not talk about the strength of the visuals across the romance campaign. Um, and there are a few reasons why. The first was that the band's direction had changed musically, and this meant that they did want a complete overhaul in their personal style too. What followed on social media was an immediate indication of this fresh sound. Bathed in neon pink, green, and blue, the summer of romance was clearly here. It was a sheer coincidence that the colours also chimed with Charlie XCX's Brat Summer campaign, but this certainly would have helped Fontaine's attract a bigger audience on their new record for sure. I mean, I think the two artists lucked out by having that lime green across both of their campaigns. And I can't speak for Fontaine's when I comment on this, but the move away from the darker, more grungy colours found in their previous campaigns and artwork did indicate to me that they were looking to attract a younger, more female and possibly LGBTQ plus audience with this new record, moving away perhaps from the lad rock peers found on their previous label, Partisan Idols. But again, that's just my thinking on that. But it most definitely showed a softer side to the band alongside the more melodic songs and songs that can be found on Romance. It goes without saying that big hitters like Fontaine's don't need to post as much as other artists on Instagram or on their social channels. So when they do post, it needs to be impactful. So for a new campaign, a big splash like this was needed to re-engage fans new and old. And what better way to do that than a complete reinvention? Aside from the obvious futuristic changes in style, their social media also capitalized on their new look with comical reels, brand new colourful press shots, and artwork by the same artist as the album sleeve across all of the singles and merchandise. The continuity here is very strong. They then transformed record shops across the globe on release week, and in a position where week one chart sales were important, their delivery of free romance balloons, tote bags, and stickers resonated even more with their fans that had grown to love this new this new band or reinvention of the band. The videos themselves, however, were more in keeping with the themes of nostalgia on the album, and they did completely differ from the colouring used across the artwork and campaign. This showed a different side to the band and also showed them work with other videographers and artists. Clever, innovative, and reflective of the times that we live in. As Elton John, as Elton John did say last year, they really are one of the best bands doing it right now. But here are two artists that are completely different. So Confidence Man was one of the first artists that I worked with at Heavenly that had a very clear and concise stage persona. And we also have that magic with Lynx now too. But working with these characters rather than people made it a different kind of campaign to work on, but one which was a lot of fun. So you can get really stuck into platforms like TikTok and the Instagram Reels feature when an artist is this much fun. Getting into this character means exploring the more absurd and ridiculous. No idea is too wild for a band like Confidence Man, and no fashion statement is too outside the box for an artist like Lynx. Again, the design and style element of this type of content needs to be maintained and manicured. So you don't want to see the real person behind the mask, so to speak. That would sort of spoil the whole stage show and persona. So these artists have a very clear vision of what they want people to see creatively, and their social media channels are an extension of this live performance and aesthetic. And by being artists like this, they have also opened doors within the fashion world, which is interesting. Two more artist examples here are again completely different. Is Katie J. Pearson and Arlo Parks. And although I don't work with Arlo Parks, I can see similarities that she has with our own Katie J. Pearson. So these artists both of these two artists had to rely on social media quite heavily cam during their campaigns, as they very much were on the up during the COVID-19 pandemic. And what both artists did really well was express their human side, their kindness and their wide smiles, which which really reached and resonated with their fans. They connected with fans by using the power of messaging. They used things like the live chat feature on Instagram or during live streams. Their posts were perhaps more personal in tone about the struggles that people were going through. These artists also openly invited fans into their homes, sharing their likes and dislikes, but without being bolshy or arrogant about the worlds in which they found themselves in. Their confidence came across as warm and also inviting. They also rewarded fans with competitions and quite regular giveaways. At times, the artists also got fans to interact with user generated content. This was when the Instagram filters did become a bit of a hit during COVID. They don't seem to be as much of a thing anymore, although I am still really enjoying the Giphy stickers found on Instagram stories. Both of these artists have an interest in charity work, and Arlo Parks is a big supporter of mental health charities, and Katie is a big supporter of disability rights charities. So, again, this is an expression and an extension of their already authentic personalities, but it certainly has opened doors into other sort of, I guess, not careers, but other areas of interest that fans can also resonate with, as well as the music. Lastly, um, is a more recent example and a Manchester-based example, Wonder. So Wonder is another example of an artist who bigs up her music community mostly. So working with a rapper, there is quite a lot that is embedded within that community. So her friends, fans, and And also, all aspects of her work are presented on social media. From her daily meditation to dating advice, her regular Friday night cooking classes, and of course, making her own music in her recording studio at home, Wonder showcases it all across social media and has a very tell all visual story. She doesn't leave much off social media, in fact, and for her, that works. Again, this doesn't always work for everybody. Um, but the reason it works is that her confidence and ability to share advice and encouragement is something that resonates within her genre of music. It's been really exciting to see how Wanda's fan base has grown in the last couple of years using this approach, um, because it certainly helped her get live shows more globally than perhaps some of our other artists. And it's also quite difficult to maintain this approach because it's a bit harder to switch off from your real life and your Instagram life. So there's a lot to take in there, from the social media channels that we've spoken about to the importance of Bandcamp and the mailing list, and also some artist examples for you. So I've just got some key takeaway points to finish off. Get your personality across and be honest in the voice in which you use. Don't post too often. Little is more when you want to get your point across. One announcement at a time, as you don't want to swamp your audience. Don't neglect any channel. I would rather see a band just have Instagram and Facebook than I would see a band have Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok where they only have one post on TikTok. So keeping an eye on all your channels, as continuity is vital. Remember that social media is meant to engage with audience, and it does take time, but ultimately it should be part of your creative journey. It should be fun, and it should also come about to be rewarding as well. So keep it real on there.